Hey, I have a hat now. Hello everyone, my name is McBoneless and I'm back for another Destiny video, and yes, I am a bone. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a problem that has long plagued Destiny 2, seasonal events. Now I know the Dawning just ended, but I feel like this could apply to the upcoming Guardian games in a couple of months. I think that there are two main problems with seasonal events. That is, the loot isn't being chased, and for some of the events, the gameplay is repetitive. Now before I go into these topics, I'd like to make it clear that not all seasonal events are created equal. Depending on the year, some have good loot, but not a good activity, and vice versa. It's really dependent on the year, as sometimes Bungie does redesign a seasonal event and make it better, but some, like the 2025 Dawning, haven't received any significant redesign to the activity in years. So whenever I talk about a specific problem, please understand that I'm not saying that all seasonal events have that same specific problem. Alright, let's get started. Now, despite these events tending to not have great loot, I will say this year has been somewhat better. I would say the main highlights for the 2025 year were Year-Tide Apex, Festival Flight, Gunburn, and yeah, that's about it. Everything else in my opinion is either mid or just doesn't hold up in the current sandbox. If you've seen my video about abilities, you know that 99% of the legendary primaries in the game are not relevant. I'm going to go over the weapons in each seasonal event in order to prove a point about the lack of loot. Let's start with Guardian games. For Guardian games, we got the Title, Void Aggressive Submachine Gun, Taraxipos, Strand Lightweight Scout Rifle, Hullabaloo, Heavy Arcwave Frame Grenade Launcher, and the Kara Unias, an Arc Adaptive Trace Rifle. The main weapon to go for here was probably the new Trace Rifle. It had some decent perk combos like Overflow or Triple Tap with Jolting Feedback or Detonator Beam. Hullabaloo does have some niche use cases like in the Renaix boss fight in the Vespers Host dungeon. The rest of these weapons are legendary primaries with middling perk rolls or weak archetypes. Not to mention that this was the last seasonal event before the whole gear tier revamp, so chances are we'll probably have some better versions of these weapons this year. For Solstice, we got the Year-Tide Apex, Solar Lightweight Tex Mechanica Frame Submachine Gun, Festival Flight, Strand Area Denial Frame Grenade Launcher, Fortunate Star, Void Lightweight Frame Bow. I'd say overall, Solstice 2025 had a good weapon pool. Despite the current state of legendary primaries, Year-Tide Apex still remains to be relevant, and will only continue to rise in usage if and when Bungie decides to buff primaries. Festival Flight is a great kinetic slot alternative for an attrition orb spam grenade launcher like VS Velocity Baton. Fortunate Star is the weakest of the three, but has the classic destabilizing rounds repulsor brace roll, so you can't go wrong with that. I think Solstice takes the cake for the best seasonal event weapons in 2025. For Festival of the Lost, we got Gunburn, Kinetic Lightweight Submachine Gun, Hushed Whisper, Strand Precision Bow, and an Arcane Embrace, Kinetic Heavy Burst Shotgun. Gunburn is a weapon I unfortunately missed out on, as it has a unique perk combo in Bewildering Burst and Kinetic Tremors. You also have Attrition Orbs, which are always great on high RPM weapons. Hushed Whisper I don't have a lot to say about, as it's just another bow. And then Arcane Embrace was released last year as a new shotgun archetype, but the archetype isn't that strong. Finally, for the Dawning, we got Mistral Lift, a Void Adaptive Burst Linear Fusion, Permafrost, a Stasis Wave Grenade Launcher, Thimble Winter Stitch, Arc Precision Sidearm, and then Gizmo Weft, Strand Micro Missile Grenade Launcher. The Dawning this year was specifically disappointing. I was expecting the Thimble Winter Stitch sidearm to be a rocket sidearm, because it kinda looks like one. I was sad to see that it was in fact a regular sidearm. Mistral Lift isn't a bad weapon to get, but linear fusion rifles have not been used since back in episode Heresy, when we were using Queenbreaker instead of regular legendaries. With Permafrost, Waveframe Grenade Launchers have long been power crept, and have seen little use post-Final Shape. Bungie ended up adding a secret weapon for the Dawning called Gizmo Weft, which is a cool micro-missile frame with good damage perks like Elemental Honing, Bait and Switch, and Envious Arsenal. I think it's also the first grenade launcher to get Bipod, which is a rocket perk, so that's cool. I actually love when Bungie surprises us with cool weapons that aren't announced or put in a Twit article. As an aside, I think that is when Bungie is their strongest, whenever they have mystery surrounding activities and loot. You may have noticed a pattern when I talk about these weapons, and that is, if it doesn't have a unique role or archetype, it most likely isn't strong or relevant. If the loot isn't good, if the loot isn't great, players are not going to play the event. It is quite disappointing to log into Destiny the day a seasonal event starts for the year, only to find out that it's the same event or grind as last year. Now I'll say that Bungie was a lot better about this in 2025. The Guardian Games revamp was a great surprise with an entertaining boss rush that brought back some familiar faces. It was nice that Solstice did not have us go back to the EAZ and instead be able to grind the weapons alongside the portal. The Festival of the Lost finally changed up the haunted lost sectors with haunted altars and a PvP activity called Red Rumble. And the Dawning was still the Dawning. Now you might be thinking, McBoneless, they are changing up the seasonal events. And I would say, yeah, that's cool, but are they going to do that this year? If Bungie wants to keep people engaged with these events, they need to continually switch up the activities every year. Because the hard truth is that people don't like doing the same activities over and over every year. So how do we fix seasonal events? Well, as for the loot aspect, I think it's pretty simple. Bungie needs to make loot that is unique and strong. It might not be too far of a stretch to say that Solstice 2025 kind of saved Edge of Fate. Yeartide Apex and Festival Flight were unique weapons that have had great roles and archetypes, on top of having a really nice holofoil shiny variant. Just having one weapon on a seasonal event like one of these will make players interested in playing the event. In addition to making the loot great, I think Bungie could add a new system that allows players to get other seasonal event weapons during any seasonal event. Okay, for example, let's say I wanted a Yeartide Apex, but oh no, it's December, and Solstice won't be back until like June or July. Well, currently it's the Dawning. What if I'm able to use Dawning currency such as Dawning Spirit to purchase a random roll of Yeartide Apex during the Dawning? I think that'd be really cool. Now there would need to be balances to this. Perhaps it costs 200 Dawning Spirit instead of the regular 50 Dawning Spirit to purchase a non-Dawning themed weapon. Maybe there could be only a limited amount of non-themed weapons you could purchase, like 5 or 10 per event. However Bungie would want to do it, I think adding something akin to this would help out new players or players who missed the event that wanted a certain weapon, but otherwise would have to wait until the next seasonal event. I've already touched on how to fix the repetitiveness of these events, and that is just to change them up every year. Changing the activities are pretty simple. I do like that Bungie has started to add both PvE and PvP modes during these events. That is great for both sides of the player base. The Dawning needs to change next year. I do not want to load up into this game in December 2026 and have Grandma hand me another oven. I don't even hate the cookie system, but just add something additional. That is it for this video. Please let me know in the comments how you feel about Destiny 2's seasonal events. Do you like the current state they're in? What would you do to change them? I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Please be sure to subscribe and drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Also, if you have a spare hype, I'd greatly appreciate you using it on this video. I've been McBoneless. I'll see you all in the next one.